Hi everyone, hope you're having a nice day. I'm making this impromptu video session just to go over a couple of concepts. As you can see, I actually have pumpkins here because I took my daughter pumpkin picking. Now, I wanted to just use them to help explain a concept that I think maybe will help us a little bit. So we have the largest pumpkin at the top, right? So I'm sorting them out, right? So now we have the second largest here, it's getting smaller. Then we have the third largest, and this one is the smallest, right? So you could see the difference in size. So when we're moving down, right, when we're starting off on our inverted pyramid, your most general topic is the biggest, right? That's the big one at the top. Then we get a little bit narrower, right? So it's less general. Then the third, we get specific. By the time we get to the most specific at the bottom, right, that is your thesis, right? So we did talk about that, right? So that's a form of brainstorming. Now, once you actually have that, you're able to plug in your thesis and do a cluster diagram, right? So some of you were mistaking that on quiz 3 for the writing process, right? So those are two different things. So those cluster diagram and inverted pyramid are different types of brainstorming, right? So we put that along with listing, writing journal, doing question and answer, discussion with others, annotation, right? Taking notes as you read something. So those are all forms of brainstorming. That's like one big category, right? But then the writing process itself that I went over last week or the week before, okay, is the process through which we do our essay, right? So the first part of that is brainstorming, right? So that contains all the things I just talked about. That's all in that number 1, right? So the second is outlining, right? So once we have a thesis and we have our main topic and we can focus, then we can move on to that outline. All right, then we're writing a first draft, right? Then we're revising. Then we're editing. Then we're writing a final draft. And then there's one more thing that comes at the end, which I went over last time, right? We're proofreading, right? To make sure that we didn't miss anything when we were doing the revising and editing. And hopefully proofreading should not take very long, because if you've done a good job revising and editing, your final draft should be pretty solid. Okay, so just to distinguish and differentiate, some of you got this wrong on the quiz, and I just wanted to, a lot of you did get it right, so that's great, but some of you didn't, and I wanted to explain it for those of you who are maybe a little bit confused still about that. Now, the components of revising and the components of editing we had gone over as well, right? So revising, right, was thesis, purpose, content, organization, and paragraph structure, right? So that was all part of the revising process. The editing process was the initials GPSM, right? So that was grammar, punctuation, spelling, and mechanics. Okay, so those were the ones I think that the most common question that people got incorrect. I would say maybe like 30% of the class. So the other 70%, you all got it right. But just in case you maybe not watching the videos, if you're not watching the videos, that is going to hurt you on the quizzes tremendously. So I just want to remind you of that. Please watch these video sessions. I'm giving additional material. I'm going over other material, correcting any errors that I saw on the discussion board that maybe I wanted to make sure everybody understood properly. So it's really important that you watch these. And now just one more thing. So when we're correcting a sentence, whether it's a run-on, right, or a fragment, could be either one, right? For now, we're focusing on those two because those are the ones I went over. Remember, we cannot use a coordinating conjunction to start a sentence. So you cannot start with but, you cannot start with and, you cannot start with so, or yet, or for, or, right? So make sure that you're not starting, big X, right? Big X through these. You cannot start a sentence with those. Okay, the only exception is the word for example, but it's used as a phrase, not in and of itself. So that would be the only exception to that rule. So what about however? Can we use however, like comma, however, like she went to the park, comma, however, it started to rain. Okay, let's say that's our sentence. How would we correct that? There's 3 different ways you could correct this run-on sentence, okay, because it is incorrect. 1, just put a period right there and then write capital H for however, and you're fine. 2, if you didn't want to do that and you wanted to leave it, okay, connected, you could use a semicolon here, and then you can use however there. Okay, because they are very closely connected sentences. That won't always work, but in this kind of sentence, it's closely connected and it makes sense. That's 2. And the third option is to rewrite the word here instead of using however. So you want to keep your comma, right? You want to keep your long sentence. So cross out however, and you could say, but it started to rain, because but is a coordinating conjunction and you're allowed to use that. Okay, so just to clarify those things with you, if there are any more questions, please post them on the discussion board. I'm more than happy to help with you always. And if you need to ask me anything personally, you can always email me as well. But hopefully this fixes some of the errors, and hopefully you guys can get them right next time, because this will pop up again on a future quiz just to make sure we're all on the same page. All right, so talk to you soon and see you in the next session.